All right, welcome back to Problem Solver Politics. I am your host, Cardin Ellis, with Cody the Oracle.
Hey, everybody.
And we got a serious question. What makes it's almost like, why won't Hillary Clinton go away? In the Vietnam War, there was actually a problem with American soldiers' bodies. They ate so many MREs and so many preservatives that they would actually stay out in the fields for days and days and days while the Vietnamese soldiers who ate, obviously a much more organic diet were decomposing faster. And so I kind of just wonder, what has she eaten politically that just makes it so that her body does not, ashes to ashes, dust to dust politically after she has just lost so many times. And she keeps saying stuff. The latest and greatest blows my mind. Cody, take this away, my man.
Yeah, well, for those of you who have been lucky enough to not follow the 2020 primary too closely, you might be thinking, why are we even talking to Hillary Clinton? Well, this morning, as you pointed out, Hillary Clinton was, by the way, doing an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, promoting her TV show that's going to be airing on Hulu, by the way. Which, hey, Hulu seems to be getting big time into politics. They have the New York Times endorsement TV show. Now they have the Hillary Clinton documentary TV show. Now, what's coming out mostly from this interview and the early release of the TV show is this quote from Hillary Clinton in reference to Bernie Sanders. Nobody likes him. So we'll go through and we'll look at the full answer, but I want to pull some other stuff here for you guys too. So first of all, if you guys want to read the whole thing, I'll have the link posted below. It's how you imagine an interview with Hillary Clinton in the Hollywood Reporter would go for the most part. But here's how they frame the question. They say, in the documentary, you're brutally honest on Sanders. Quote, he was in Congress for years. He had one senator support him. Nobody likes him. Nobody wants to work with him. He got nothing done. He was a career politician. It's all just baloney, and I feel so bad that people got sucked into it. That assessment still holds? Yes, it does. Holy cow, man. That is a scathing indictment on Bernie Sanders.
Yes, it's scathing, but what's crazy is we were just talking about this. That is straight up Mean Girls right there. That is a 70-year-old Regina George just reasserting her dominance. You know what I'm saying? There's part of me that's actually kind of proud of her for speaking her truth.
Well, no, but it's too late. I think that's a great example. Yeah, it would be like the person going to their high school bully 4 years later and saying, "Hey, I figured out the zinger to go back at you." It's like, okay, dude, but where? But anyway, the interview is pretty disgusting to read.
Okay.
Here's the last thing I'll read from it is when she talks about they go down and they ask him about the famous Bernie Sanders Elizabeth Warren exchange. And the whole answer is ridiculous, but this is my favorite part. So in reference to Bernie Sanders saying that allegedly telling Elizabeth Warren couldn't win, Hillary Clinton says, if it were a one-off, you might say, okay, fine. But he said I wasn't qualified. I had a lot more experience than he did, and I got a lot more done than he had. But that was his attack on him. It's whenever I read any Hillary Clinton interview, it's always the same thing. This person did me wrong and attacked me personally, and I'm out to get him. Now, again, I'll have the whole interview. You guys can read the whole thing because this is what came out this morning. But led us to this larger question of why won't Hillary Clinton go away? This isn't the first time. Because remember, she's supposed to be promoting her TV show here. And the interview is basically them asking her political questions about 2020. How is the media covering 2020? Did Bernie Sanders really say this? According to the director of the documentary, it's not political in nature, but that's all they asked her about in the interview. So clearly Hillary's focused on 2020 a bit. Now, A lot of you guys might remember this. This was a Washington Examiner wrote this up, but it's actually a Rasmussen poll. But there was a Rasmussen poll released back in October of 2019.
Okay.
Saying that Hillary Clinton was dead even with Trump in the 2020 matchup.
Yeah.
Rasmussen poll released Monday found that both Trump and Clinton would receive 45% support in a hypothetical matchup. The poll showed 11% of potential voters remained undecided. Majority of Democrats said that Clinton would win the nomination if she entered the primary, with 48% saying she would and 46% saying she would not. Clinton lost Trump in the 2016 presidential race, so on and so on. But I remember when this popped up in October, I thought that was kind of weird, and then ultimately moved on, whatever.
Okay.
What came out not too much longer, but a few weeks after that was, I'll move the screen for you guys, this famous interview, CNN wrote this article up, but this interview was hilarious.
Dude, I cannot, the fact that that comment is like those tablets you take to induce vomiting. The fact that our society did not completely just, I think this is worse than anything Trump did making fun of a New York Times reporter with disabilities. You know what I'm
I
saying?
mean, I don't like.
I mean, that's kind of like comparing a 300-pound pile of crap to a 305-pound pile of crap.
I think they're both pretty bad.
But, yeah,
I don't like Hillary doing this either. Like, but this is
the fact that she was not just summarily rejected by society.
Well, that's what I mean. It's getting worse for her. But I only want to show a couple more things because I think it's really fun to talk about this. So again, this interview was I don't know when it was conducted, but this story hit the media cycle about 2-3 weeks after the story of Hillary Clinton hypothetically would beat Donald Trump and win the primary. It's just kind of weird, right? So then, I didn't think a ton of it. I'm like, that's another weird Hillary Clinton poll. But then there was another one that came out. Here we go. There was a Harvard and Harris poll that came out. I believe this was in early December. And it is right here. Mrs. Clinton drew 21%, followed by Vice President Joseph R. Biden. It always trips me up when they call him Joseph R. Biden. Is he like Junior or whatever? It's always like, didn't know that was his name. He never goes by that. Anyway, with 20% when registered Democrats would ask they would support for the 2020 party mix. They have a tweet here from Tom Brevin. He breaks it down. So according to this poll, Hillary Clinton hypothetically would be polling at 21%. I love how they add John Kerry in the question as well.
Yeah, why?
Just to make it a little bit less transparent. We're not just directly gauging interest on Hillary's behalf.
Yeah, we're just trying to choose all relative.
What about hypothetically John Kerry?
Yeah.
Imagine in 2020 somebody asking you, hypothetically, if John Kerry ran for president, would you vote for him? How many people would be like, oh man, how happy I would be if John Kerry ran. But one more thing, the last thing I want to show,
why aren't we throwing Bob Dole into that mix at this point?
Is check this out. Another thing that happened. This is the Real Clear Politics betting average. Okay. And I do think it shows a bit of significance to what happened in Warren.
Oh, you got to get that on the screen, bro.
Oh, I know. But I just want to get so this yellow line here is Hillary Clinton. As I was showing you guys, for some reason
she spiked
in October when she did the attacking Tulsi. This is right before the attacking Tulsi thing came out, and this is right after, by the way, so you can see what happened. And she's been dropping. But
why did Warren spike right then too?
For some reason, we can do a whole video on this. For some reason, bettors were all in on Warren early on in the cycle. I don't actually know why, but they were all.
Yeah, and we were making videos where we were quoting articles calling her the shadow frontrunner. Yeah, and she was for a while, man.
She eclipsed Biden for like 3 days in the aggregate as the number one polling candidate.
Those are the best 3 days of her life. Will she become bitter 8 years from now? Talking about those 3 days, you know what I'm saying?
So she'll be doing
Politico articles like Hillary did.
Elizabeth Warren will be doing interviews 4 years from now, blaming Bernie Sanders the same way Hillary Clinton is doing right now for losing the primary. Because that was the other thing I wanted to pull up. I don't have the quote right now, but the last thing I want to reference, let's see if I can pull it up for you guys, is, and I think she talks about it in this interview. Hillary Clinton will not stop telling people that Bernie Sanders not immediately bowing down and endorsing her after she stole the primary from him was like the most damaging thing to her campaign. And it's just this, why is Hillary Clinton popping up and just relitigating 2016 or trying to convince? I don't understand what this is. It's really weird to me. It's like she's not running, but I have to imagine her team or somebody keeps having these pollsters. Hey, and then here's the other thing, right? There's probably a lot of polls that ask some weird Hillary Clinton question. Why do they get written up as articles in these? Like, it's always like cluster of Hillary stories comes out. Let's see what the interest is. Okay, that's bad messaging. Cluster of Hillary stories come out. So I would expect with this interview coming out, with her TV series debuting in I think February or March, expected some more Hillary Clinton testing the water stuff. Because hey, Mike Bloomberg said, I don't need the early states. Think Hillary Clinton needs them? It's weird to me. I cannot imagine she would actually run. But like, this is hilarious. They asked her in the interview. Sorry, let's think. I want to hear you say about this. They asked her in the interview, any advice to Warren or Klobuchar if they got nominated? She's like, I've talked to them. What have you said? She's like, I answered their questions. I've talked to practically everybody. And they're like, we assume Bernie. And she goes, yeah, well, I can't say all of that. It's just like, it's so weird to me that there's like these just like mean-spirited, awful. It's like Hillary every now and then crawls out from wherever she is and just lays down barbs on somebody. Mostly Bernie Sanders and Tulsi Gabbard. Oh, they're the worst. They're awful. And she shuffles away. I don't hear from her again for a few months. It's really bizarre.
Look at that garbage. This is how toxic this woman is. So I can't say I've talked to all of them, but I can answer these questions. I've always said to the female candidates, look, you can run the best campaign, but you're going to have to do even better than your best campaign to overcome some of the unfairness that will be directed to you as a woman. BS. Nobody likes Elizabeth Warren. not because she's a woman, because she lied about her ethnicity and accepted rewards for it.
Well, also,
she lied about Russia. She lied about public schools. She lied about being fired for a pregnancy. She lied about her, even back in the bankruptcy law days when she was writing bankruptcy law. She lied about the politicians she talked to there. She's a liar. We don't like liars regardless of whether they're females or not. Sorry. Hate to tell it to you, Hillary. Hate to tell it to you to like 99% of feminists out there. Nobody cares about your gender. We care about your qualifications and who you are as a person, especially millennials who rank highest on authenticity when asked about voting. No one cares about your gender. We care about whether you're a decent person who doesn't fake their American Indian in order to win elections, and B, I don't know. I could keep going on. It's just going to give me an ulcer.
Yeah. What about? I think like I kind of wanted to say to your point there. It's almost like Hillary Clinton receiving the majority of the popular vote and really losing. Well, it was like a delegate landslide. Like the states were close. She lost, despite claiming she was running the greatest uphill battle of all time. It's like, yeah, she came out pretty well. If Hillary Clinton can win the popular vote and come within bothering to campaign in states from maybe winning the whole thing despite being awful, unlikable, and everyone hating her.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine if somebody who wasn't. I do think it's funny. It's almost like, yeah, they're on Elizabeth Warren now, and it's like the New York Times.
The best part is she used the term fake news. Look at her answer.
Well, everyone
she
does.
literally says, then you've got to worry about the propaganda and the fake news.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Okay, honestly,
she has completely adopted the language of her oppressor.
Well, no, this is what's happened now, and this actually worries me. People on the right, on the left, people in general in politics say, where is it? There's a line in here. Oh no, am I missing it? But basically, the exact same thing about each other. Here we go. The opposition. Apparently, everyone's committing voter oppression all the time. Both the right and the left accuse everyone of committing voter oppression all the time, stealing votes all the time. It's just there's these same attacks, and it's almost like it's weird. It's like, wow, there's literally two people on two separate sides lobbying the exact same, like word for word. Maybe they'll change the way it's done, but the exact same like attacks on each other. It's really bizarre to me. But I don't want to. That's a whole video in and of itself. I want to talk more about Hillary Clinton and the fact that this woman is, for whatever reason, hovering around the 2020 election still, and I do not know why, whether it be October, whether it be December. This was the interesting one to me, because again, this is Harvard-Harris, and again, like it's sometimes these questions are in the polls and they don't get reported. Why was this suddenly happening? And I'm really not looking forward to the next Hillary round of media, right? Because it's getting pretty ridiculous. It's getting pretty ridiculous. The point of this interview, from what I'm seeing, was basically watch my show to see me slam Bernie Sanders, because that was essentially the interview. I mean, yeah. I don't know. It's really, really starting to get. It's late in the cycle, so I don't think she's running. Is she really just out to get Bernie? I've almost came to that conclusion. She's so mad and she's so angry and bitter about Bernie. She just wants him to lose.
Well, that's the way the villain. That's the way the villain is always in the movies. As they're going down and they're falling into the lava pit and they've finally reached their demise. They throw one last hand grenade. One last hand grenade that makes it out, and then boom, hits the bad guy that had helped them, like the half bad guy that had, kind of betrayed the good guys. There's always minor periphery characters that we kind of fall in love with that end up getting hurt by the bad person in their fall from grace. That was my attempt to try and weave bad person equals Bernie Sanders into this.
I don't know.
He's a Democrat.
Oh, wow. Hey.
And no, I'm just kidding.
We did it. We got it in. No,
we did it. We got it in. No, I'm just kidding.
But it is weird to me, because this is what Hillary seems to love to do, is come out and say, like I said, my personal favorite was that the Russians are grooming Tulsi Gabbard. That was my personal favorite. The Russians are grooming we're going to groom this Tulsi Gabbard character who's polling at 3% to take over America. It's like, what does this even mean? It's literally, how dare you have done this thing 4 years ago? It is still, how dare you have done that? It's 4 years later now, or 3.5.
And the other thing too, though, is that if you hate both Tulsi and Bernie, how much more credence does this concept of, I'm going to spread a rumor about Russians grooming somebody? Couldn't you say that about Bernie eons before you could about Tulsi? Because after all, he honeymooned in Moscow and stuff like that, in the Soviet Union.
Yeah, but I mean, also,
if you want to start spreading nasty rumors, what why don't you make them at least somewhat believable? And if you hate both people, why don't you save the one for the one that was actually, why don't you save the Russia one for the one that's like on the record of saying how great Russia is?
Because her and Elizabeth Warren had their meeting backstage, wherever, and they decided they're going to call Bernie Sanders a sexist, which is what she did in the interview. That's what Elizabeth Warren's been doing. So the media, there was a moment on the debate stage. Everyone's talked about it a million times. I can just tell you the moment on the debate, you know what I mean, where the reporter says, Bernie, did you say that? And he said no. And they go, so Elizabeth Warren, when he said that to you, how'd you respond? It's like,
hey, so Cody.
Did they even ask him the question? But I don't want to get too lost on that. It's just, is this really it? Is there really nothing more to this than Hillary Clinton is so mad she lost? She hates Tulsi and Bernie so much for not just bowing down. Remember, I've brought this up before in the past. Tulsi Gabbard was the vice chair of the DNC. She saw what they did to Bernie as a progressive and a Bernie supporter. She then resigned from the DNC to support Bernie Sanders and say this organization is screwing him unfairly. Now, she was proven to be 1,000% correct. Like, by the way, like Bernie Sanders' campaign's body wasn't cold, and they were coming out saying like, "Oh yeah, we screwed him. We rigged the thing against him." It was ridiculous. Like it was like July. They were saying this stuff. She was there. She saw it, and Hillary didn't forget. Hillary didn't forget Bernie Sanders waited 4 full weeks. Like I said, why is Bernie Sanders a sexist? Because he said Hillary Clinton was unqualified to be president. It's like one of the craziest things I've ever heard. That like, I mean, maybe. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. I can't imagine your average regular person buying into that. Oh, Bernie Sanders, he's got to be a sexist. He said Hillary Clinton was unqualified to be president.
That was going to be my question.
What?
That was going to be my question. It took Gen Xers and the elder millennials like 30 years to start realizing that all of these claims of homophobia, sexism, racism, Islamophobia, bigotry, misogyny, whatever, all of these isms are 99% hogwash and BS. Like, do you think that the Gen Zs have gotten there yet? Do you think that now it's just the boy who cried wolf, where like this falls on deaf ears?
Well,
These kind of like, oh, he's a sexist.
Well, I mean, I think.
Do you think it's finally they've grown up?
Well, no, but just politically, it's definitely been something they've gone to the well too many times on to try to. I don't like using the term gaslight, but like trying to convince people. Something I always say about Bernie Sanders. Say whatever you want about Bernie Sanders. He's basically Bernie Sanders. We know who the guy is. He has bowed a little bit down to the establishment. He still says in his Twitter account longest serving independent, but he's pretty close to a Democrat now, and they still hate him. But the funny thing is that like you look at a guy like Bernie, and they try to convince us he's sexist. Like Bernie Sanders, a lot of things I don't like about Bernie Sanders. I don't think he's a sexist. It's gotten to the point where they've just gone to the well too many times on people where it's like, what, are you kidding me? Really? You expect me to believe someone? That's like when people are saying that it's a little bit different, but when the people are saying, oh, Andrew Yang, he fired a woman because she was pregnant, and then the story comes out, and it was like, well, like she was gone for a while, and her role wasn't that necessary, so he actually paid her a salary for like 2 years or something, and said, hey,
and she claimed to be the first freedom dividend recipient. Remember?
Yeah, exactly.
That was like her headline. Like, I was the first recipient of the freedom dividend.
Oh, yeah.
She literally was complaining about the sexism of a supposed sexism of somebody that gave her free money for 2 years.
Yeah, so I would say when it comes to like in the context of like just obviously politically motivated attacks against people, they've gone to that well too many times in the recent past. I mean, it's getting to the point now, like I said, maybe I'm wrong. There's people out there who would say, oh, it's a good point Hillary Clinton made. But like Elizabeth Warren just lying and saying Bernie Sanders told her something and just not backing up any evidence, just, that's what he told me. And then Hillary Clinton coming out and being like, well, Bernie Sanders also said I was unqualified. It's like, Hillary, people didn't, you know what, this whole thing was I was trying to figure out why is Hillary Clinton still hovering around. Why don't she go away and just accept the loss? I think that's it. I think it's only that maybe she'd never accept the loss. She's still, why did I lose?
Well, by the way,
Bernie
non-qualification.
Sanders, but it's getting to the point where it's like, Hillary, people, like, you can float these polls saying that you'd win the nominee if you ran. I don't believe that for a second Hillary Clinton wins the nomination if she runs.
I don't know. I do. You don't understand how bitter these people are.
But every single
Democrats are so bitter about 2016. If they thought she could win in a heartbeat, they'd support her.
But why would they think she could win if she lost once and she hasn't gotten any better?
Because the media has been so dishonest. There's so many people. Like, this is what people forget. The vast majority of Americans are ignorant to the realities of things. Okay? Like, we notice sometimes in the Yang Gang that there's plenty of Yang Gangers that have tuned in lately that don't know the intricacies of the freedom dividend and think that because Andrew Yang gets elected that all of a sudden we'll have the freedom dividend. They don't realize, no, the American political system, it has a separation of powers that's much more complex and that will require an act of Congress. Okay? So the average I hate Trump because I heard he was racist on the news that I still believe because I haven't figured out the news lies about me because they lies to me because they haven't lied about me yet. Okay. Those people still think Hillary Clinton was robbed due to Russia.
Okay, but
they still think that. That's why Andrew Yang, when he does all of these rallies and town halls, he says, hey, so why did we lose 2016, guys? I'm sure most of you guys are going to say something about like, Russia and hacking and this. He says that. Andrew Yang says that because the reality is the vast majority of registered Democrats don't tune into politics often enough to realize that that is pure hogwash.
Okay, but
so they think that if they had a second round where Russia's not on the table, we would win.
Okay, but outside of major coastal metropolitans, everyone sat home for Hillary in 2016. Are they just going to show up in 2020 for Hillary?
Yeah, because negative partisanship against Trump would drive that.
None of the progressives will support her. By the way, it's why she lost in 2016. None of the progressives wanted. Some did, but none wanted to in 16. None are going to in 20. She's been doing nothing but
the progressives haven't proven really effective at pulling off elections.
Okay, but Bernie Sanders is currently right now basically tied with Joe Biden. Right?
Yeah.
It's like I don't see a world where every Joe Biden supporter, actually I think the people you're describing are Joe Biden supporters. They probably all would go to Hillary, but dude, people don't like her. They really do. The reaction to this interview with Hillary, there's people like us.
Yeah, they don't like her, but they don't like Trump more because they just watch the occasional lying media.
I think they like other people running as Democrats more than her. I do not believe. I think there's a reason why if Hillary's team told her, you jump in, it's a slam dunk, you win, people love you, I think she'd be in the race right now. But I think they float these stories. She does interviews. They float these polls, and the reaction is always...
They stroke her ego enough so that she can say, like, well, I could have, but I didn't.
Well, no, I
could have, but I didn't.
I think they try to gauge reaction, and the reaction is always people roll their eyes and say, oh, dear God, no.
Yeah.
And I think at a certain point, she's going to have to...
That's not a roll your eyes reaction. That's like a horror movie reaction.
Yeah, but you know what I mean?
Oh, dear God, no. Usually isn't accompanied by an eye roll. It's usually accompanied by a... I'm aghast.
It's like, why won't she give up? I don't know. We've been talking for 20 minutes about Hillary Clinton. It just... Reading these interviews, seeing these polls, they come out every few months. I'm tired of why is Hillary talking about this election if she's not going to run? She's not going to really endorse anyone. It sounds to me like what she's doing right now is working behind the scenes with Elizabeth Warren to convince people Bernie Sanders is a sexist, which, holy cow, if that's actually the case and it's one of those situations where people are so giddy to share the secret, like in December we're finding out this is what happened, that will be just... Man, if the DNC wanted to kill any last credibility they have, bringing in Hillary Clinton to help Elizabeth Warren's Bernie Sanders the sexist messaging, that would be a legendary move of incompetence by like you want to lose your supporters, do some nonsense like that. I'm not saying that's what's actually happening. Just what we did see is after months and months, Hillary every now and then throwing barbs at primarily Tulsi and Bernie. She came out, a new docuseries coming out, and basically went scorched earth on Bernie Sanders and said that he is an absolute buffoon who can't get anything done and no one likes him. But she basically said no one will let Bernie sit with him at lunch. He's poop. It's
and that kind of mirrors. This is the last thing I'll say because we do have to end this video. But that kind of mirrors what the Politico article said 2 weeks ago about Barack Obama's statements saying if Bernie became the nominee, I would actively campaign against him.
Yeah.
Which, that could always be hearsay. That could always be, well, my source says this. Well, who's your source? Yeah. Oh, well, I quoted him perfectly, but I can't tell you who it is. You literally can make up anything as a journalist and say, oh, sources close to the conversation say this. But when you start getting second and third and fourth and fifth iterations of that, people start thinking, okay, well, maybe this is true.
Yeah. Well, also the idea of, I think,
especially if it's actually on film.
Well, and I think also it's Obama. Like, I don't think Politico is going to feel like we could just lie about Barack Obama and there's nothing. Like, I don't think Politico. I think like Barack Obama would be like, oh, you're just printing lies about me. They published all
those articles calling him a Republican. Don't forget, they published all those articles.
That wasn't Politico. That was one article by the Washington Post, I believe.
Oh no, but then they referenced the Washington Post article. Okay,
still, like I said,
you know what I'm saying?
I think former President Barack Obama's got enough clout and influence. You can't just print straight lies about him. Yeah. Or at least you can't print straight lies he doesn't want out there. Maybe he never said that, but he doesn't like Bernie, and he's like, whatever. Yeah. If people want to think I said that, whatever. But like, I think I'm just saying, like, he's one of those few Americans who actually is so powerful he can go to the media and say, I demand you retract this.
Sometimes, Cody, I wonder what it's like being in your head. the fact that, like, see, if somebody lied about me, even if they said something that I liked, I'd be pissed off that they lied about me, and I'd want to correct the record, because that's it's like a philosophical thing inside of me that I want to correct the record, right? The fact that you could just be like, oh, well, it's kind of true, so I'm not even gonna worry about it. That's actually kind of cool. I envy that, dog.
Yeah, I mean,
I envy that.
Well, he's a politician, man. They gotta think that way.
So anyway, let us know what you guys think. If you have any insights, please, hey, in the comments below, let us know what you think. If you'd like to join the channel, now you can actually have a membership. Check it out. You get some really cool members-only streams that are a lot of fun. Let us know. Also, if you have any opinions or any kind of tips or any kind of leads, on problemsolverpolitics.com, and also follow us on Twitter at PSP Radio 1. This is Problem Solver Politics. We'll see you guys in the next video.